In this tutorial we are going to look at the graphic interface of Magic Automa. As always in the generic part of these tutorials we will use a simple notepad to remember that Magic Automa can work with any Windows application. At the top we have the two system menus that we will always have in any workspace. Menu information, where we have the link to download the Android app and the iOS app to connect the tablet. The link to go to the official website, the email to contact us, the YouTube channel and our Facebook page. Here we have the version of Magic Automa and the activation email. Here we have the possibility to enter the serial number to switch from the trial version to the professional one, and here you see that the professional version is activated with the email and the serial number. Here we can go to the official website. Here we can have the information on the latest version of Magic Automa. If this option is activated, we will be informed when a new version is published. Here instead we have the installed version and the online version. Here we download the latest version. Here we close the software. In the settings menu there is the menu for macros, but since we have not yet activated any workspace, it is disabled. Here we go to the general settings. We have the possibility to go and change the color of the presets. These are all the default presets for the button graphics. With the right button we access the options to modify the preset, or to create a new one, delete it, duplicate it or rename it. Let's change a button preset. We can change the font, the background color, the color when the mouse passes over it, the color of the button when the mouse is pressed, the border color. The pixel size of the border, the position of the image and the text. We can manage the presets as we want. Here we have the possibility to set the language of the user interface. Here we have the option to make a software backup or restore from a previous backup. Here there is management of the layouts of the Magic Automa graphical interface, size and position of the windows. In the global settings we have all the various settings of the software. With the possibility of positioning the containers at the top or at the bottom. Or to display the macros in alphabetical order. If we want to have constant control of the mouse. And if we want to save the macros automatically when the software is closed. Here we have the panels section where we can set the main panel to always be above all other windows. The same applies for the favorites panel and the secondary panels. Here we decide whether to save the position of the secondary windows when they are moved or resized. Here we have the possibility to reset the values for both the main window and the favorite window. Here we have the paths. Here for example is the backup path, i.e. where all the data backups will be saved when I exit the software. Here we have the possibility to customize the size of new macros and new folders, by unit or by pixel. We also have the possibility to decide which should be the default preset for macros and new folders. Here we are going to set the macro application speed. 100 is the default. If I want to slow down the application of macros, we bring the value less than 100. If we want to speed up the application of macros, we bring the value greater than 100. Here we set the default pause between lines in a complex macro creation. Here we have windows. Here clearly now we don't have any other windows activated because we have not selected any workspace. Markers section, we have the possibility to import any type of markers and export them to any type. For this we will make a dedicated tutorial. Now let's create a new workspace and let's do it for Notepad. Now you have seen that once a workspace is open, all secondary windows and the various options to manage the workspace will be enabled. In these are floating windows left and right. We have the command where we have a player to listen to music, a button to search for macros, and then to connect the tablet. Let us see how this window widens. These are floating windows. If I click here, it doesn't close automatically anymore, but I can bring this window outside and make it a single window. From this moment I can move it wherever I wish. Or bring it back into the main window by attaching it to these anchors. Let's put it here and see it becomes floating again. The same action applies to the vocal command, transport key, and the others. I can do anything. I can manage the layout as I want and then save it. Let's restore the default layout of the windows. In the Windows menu, we can enable or disable all secondary windows. Here we have the Favorites window. This window is nothing more than a window that gives users the possibility to choose to go and put their favorite macros and reduce the space occupied on the desktop. I can minimize the main window and only use the Favorites window. Then we have the transport key window, which is even smaller if I want to reduce the space used even more, and here we can put macros associated with small buttons and put it where we want in small spaces. The Effect Manager window is used only for some programs such as EDIUS. Generic menu. Based on the workspace, we will have a list of the target software windows to be activated. Here we have the containers. The generic workspace has the generic container and the tablet container, but we can create infinite containers. If I want to delete the tablet container, can I do it? I can't do it because tablet container is read-only. Let's create another container. Right-click, New, and for this example I call it Second. Now with drag and drop I can move both macros from one container to another and move the containers between them. I have the various options for managing containers. Inside the containers I can also create a folder which in turn will contain other macros. Let's create a folder. When you see these double borders it means it's a folder. We enter the folder and we see that inside the folder we can create other macros. Even with drag and drop we can bring macros inside. To return to the previous level, just click in the empty space. Whenever we click in the empty space with the right mouse button and we will have this menu. We have the possibility to create a new macro with the wizard, the ability to create a new macro with the live recorder, and the ability to create a new macro with scripts. We will see all these options in other tutorials. Let's go to macro management. Here we have listed all the macros. The name, the container, the subfolder, the type, if it has an associated voice command, if it has an associated hotkey, if it is inserted in the favorites, if it is inserted in the tablet, if it is protected, and the author. Here I can filter and view only macros that have an associated voice command. Or filter and view only macros that have a hotkey assigned. In this case we have not yet assigned any shortcuts to the macros. Here we can go to perform operations on the selected macros. We select for example 3 macros, we can delete them, export them, import them, or change the container. Or select all macros or deselect them. Here we have the menu on containers. Here we have the macro menu. We can edit a macro. Let's see how a hotkey is assigned to the macro. This window opens with the cyan keys that are the available ones and the blue ones are those already assigned. I select F3 to assign it to this macro. In fact, we go back to the macro management, filter the display and see that the macro has a hotkey assigned. From this moment, if I click F3, I execute the assigned macro. We can duplicate a macro. We can assign a voice command to the macro. Decide to see the macro on the tablet. Protect the macro. If, for example, I want to send my macro to another user of Magic Automa but I don't want to show the contents, I can protect it. It can only be unprotected by the author. Delete the macro. I can add to favorites. I can add it to the transport keys. Let's see macro settings. Import macros. If I have macros saved and I want to import them, I modify the path indicating where the macros to import are. I select and import the macros I want to import. I can export my macros. I can create a list of all the macros with their assigned hotkeys and voice commands of my workspace to be printed or saved. I can also activate and deactivate the lists to be created. Tablet connection. We will see this in another tutorial to connect the tablet to our workspace. Close current workspace. It saves me and closes the current workspace and has the same effect as the X above on the left. Application target. I can have a series of applications to start together with the opening of my workspace, in this case the notepad. I click here on Run and my workspace will run. The notepad will be launched. Export workspace. When I have created my workspace and I want to make a backup. Below we have the mouse movement. The last click is between the brackets and the numbers that move continuously are the current position of the mouse. If this number is red, it will indicate any errors. Click to open the log folder. There is a history of all possible errors that you can send to technical support. For this tutorial we are now done. Thank you.